Our mission at Resilient Advisor is to have a significant impact on the retirement crisis by educating and empowering financial advisors to better serve their clients. We bring you industry thought leaders and experts to help you make a difference in the lives of your clients.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Resilient Advisor. My name is Jay Coulter. This show is now part of the Financial Advisor TV network. To learn more, please visit financialadvisor.tv. That is financialadvisor.tv. According to my guest, 82% of clients expect their financial advisors to be knowledgeable about Bitcoin, and 62% say that they would switch advisors to get advice about Bitcoin. And this is why he created the Digital Assets Council of Financial Professionals to help solve this problem for our community. Now, Rick Edelman does not need any introduction to my audience, as he's widely recognized as one of the most influential people in financial planning and investment management. Rick, thanks for coming on to talk about this.
Great to be with you, Jay. Thanks.
Let's get right to it. Let's start with the skeptics. Why do financial advisors need to pay attention to Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies?
Because it's not going away. This is here to stay, and it doesn't really matter whether you like it or not. And that's the whole crux of the issue, Jay. In other words, take a look at the diversified portfolio that you already give your client. You've got probably 10, 15, 20 different asset classes and market sectors in that portfolio. I'm willing to bet that there's an asset class in there you don't like, but it's there anyway as part of a diversified portfolio. Or let's look at investment strategies you really do hate that you have nothing to do with, like annuities or non-traded REITs, or you name it. We all have certain investment strategies or products that we don't like. Everybody pretty much knows how I feel about annuities. I'm not a big fan. And other people who love annuities can explain why they love annuities very, very articulately. But you know what? I can explain equally well why I don't like annuities. So just because I don't like it doesn't mean that I can remain ignorant about it. If I'm going to do my job as a fiduciary, serving my client's best interests, that means I need to be knowledgeable about all this stuff. Only with the knowledge can I determine whether or not I like or don't like a given idea or strategy or product. So for an advisor to say, I don't care about Bitcoin and therefore not going to learn about it, that's an abdication of your fiduciary responsibilities. You've got to learn about it so that you can determine whether or not it belongs in your client portfolios.
You know, Rick, I started covering Bitcoin about 2 years ago for advisors, and I was a skeptic. I did it as part of an educational series. It started with Tyrone Ross and Matt Hogan, some advocates, early advocates like yourself to this space. Right. But what's been interesting to me over the past 18 months in particular is the sheer amount of brain power we're seeing leave the financial services space and pivot their careers towards this sector, which to me that was kind of my aha moment. Hey, I should pay attention to it. Right. But even as Matt Hogan pointed out, and you just reiterated, it's not about putting all your chips in on crypto. It's about making it part of an overall portfolio, which is sometimes hard for advisors to get past. But let's say I'm a financial advisor and I say, okay, Rick, I understand what you're saying. Maybe it should be part of a portfolio. How do I do it? What's your response?
Yeah, that's the good news, Jay. When I got started in the crypto space was back in 2012. And that was a totally different world than today. And it was scary. It was unproven. It didn't make a lot of sense. There were highly skeptical or outright dangerous players involved, Mt. Gox and Silk Road. And it was not for the feeble-hearted and certainly not ready for prime time or for use with clients. Today, you fast forward 8 or 10 years, it is a radically different marketplace today. The digital asset community has really grown up. As you pointed out, a lot of folks from Wall Street and corporate America have made the shift over and provided adult supervision to making sure that these organizations are behaving responsibly, maturely, the way we would want and hope, the way we'd expect our banks and insurance companies and brokerage firms and credit card companies to all act. We hate them too, by the way, but we know they're acting within a framework of regulatory obligation. That isn't yet the case with the world of digital assets all too often, but it is really rapidly changing to the point where you now have qualified custodians, just like you have with your IRA accounts. And so you have a wide array of product available You don't have to mine for Bitcoin like you did in 2012. You don't have to buy it from an exchange if you don't want to. You can. Coinbase is now a publicly traded company, bigger than Charles Schwab. So yeah, you can buy from Gemini or Coinbase or Kraken or other exchanges to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum and other digital assets if you like. But now you can invest in funds. There are ETFs that exist in the marketplace. There are OTC traded securities that give you direct access to Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other products. At Bitwise, you mentioned Matt Hogan. They have available diversified funds that allow you to invest in an index approach, the top 10 crypto. I'm an investor in Bitwise, by the way, not just an owner of their products, but an investor in the company. And Osprey does the same thing, and so does Grayscale. There, you can invest in companies like MicroStrategy, which owns $5 billion worth of Bitcoin, a publicly traded stock whose price moves similar to the price of Bitcoin. You can invest in publicly traded mining companies like Riot Blockchain or Marathon Digital, where instead of buying Bitcoin, you're investing in the Bitcoin miners. There are entire ETFs that invest in the ecosystem, the picks and shovels route. Don't mine gold, be like Levi Strauss and sell them blue jeans. So there are entire ETFs that are available to allow you to do this. There are so many investment opportunities in so many different ways that there really is no excuse for an advisor to say, I don't know how to do it, I can't do it, I can't incorporate it into my practice. Yes, you can. There are facilities available, SMAs and TAMPs, even qualified custodians. You can invest in an IRA. You can provide practice management, totality. You can, for example, rebalance. You can dollar cost average. You can do tax management. You can collect your fee. Everything and anything you would ordinarily do with a client portfolio, you can now do with digital assets. So it's not a question of I'd love to, but I can't. That was valid 5 years ago. Today, the excuses are gone.
So for the advisor who says, okay, I've done my research, I've bought in, now I want to start allocating assets. Like you mentioned, there's so many different avenues that you could go down now, which is great, but it's also a challenge. Where does the advisor start?
Well, the first place to start is what amount of the portfolio am I going to put into Bitcoin? And this is where a lot of advisors freeze, and understandably so. Because let's face it, this is still an emerging asset class, and all emerging markets are risky, uncertain. There could be regulatory problems, there could be technological ones, you could have competitive threats, obsolescence. There are a lot of reasons this could all blow up. And advisors know, well, gee, because of that, I don't want to invest, 50% of my clients' money into this. I mean, that's what you do with the stock market. You put 40, 50, 60, 70% of assets in stocks. You put that much into bonds, or you put 10, 20, 30% into real estate. And that's understandable. That makes sense. Not only are you willing to put the bulk of your money in stocks, bonds, and real estate, for two reasons. One, they're legitimate. They're not going away. Number two, you also know that if you only put 1 or 2% of your money into the stock market, you're kind of wasting your time. What difference does it make if you buy one share of Microsoft? You and I both own Microsoft. We own it in our mutual funds, but Bill Gates is richer because he owns a whole lot of Microsoft. So investment advisors realize that the key to investment success is asset allocation. This is what we learned from Harry Markowitz, Modern Portfolio Theory. We know the importance of investing a certain amount of money, and to do it meaningfully, that means 10, 20, 30, 40% of assets into an asset class. That is way too risky with Bitcoin. And that's why advisors get frozen. They're like, I want to invest, but I don't want to invest so much because of the risk. Therefore, I won't invest at all. And that's the classic mistake, Jay, because in this asset class, it doesn't work like all the others. That's one of the things that makes this so exciting. It's non-correlated. It doesn't have anything in common with stocks or bonds or real estate or oil or gold or foreign currencies or natural resources. It's totally unique. And that means all you need to do is a 1% asset allocation. I've been trumpeting this since 2015. It's now called by a lot of folks Rick Edelman's 1% asset allocation strategy. History tells us, with the incredible volatility of Bitcoin, a mere 1% allocation can have a material impact on the client portfolio. But being only 1%, so what if it blows up? That's not going to destroy your client's financial security. It's not going to impede their ability to retire or send a child to college. So it's a wonderful balance. And since it's only a 1% of the asset allocation, you can proceed without any real concern. So let's start there. Decide on how much. 1% is plenty. In fact, there was a study in 2018 by Yale. They reached the same conclusion. Yale said that even if you think Bitcoin will outperform by 100%, you should only have a 3% allocation. So everyone's pretty much in agreement in this space. It doesn't take much. So once you decide that it's a 1% allocation, let me give you 3 choices on how to proceed. Number 1, just buy Bitcoin. It's clearly the market leader. It has the biggest brand. Everybody has heard of it. Even though they don't know anything about it, they've heard of it. And it's a simple, easy way to get started. Bitcoin is probably going to be the last to go away if the whole thing blows up because it has such a lead. It's probably 60% of the entire market. It's a $2 trillion market, and Bitcoin is probably 60, maybe 70%. So just buy Bitcoin, call it a day. Number 2, combine Bitcoin with Ethereum. Ether is now even more exciting, a lot of folks say, because this is engaging in what's called smart contracts. This is really the commercial use case for businesses around the globe. And there's a lot of excitement about this. So have a combination of Bitcoin and Ethereum as a portfolio. And your decision, 60-40, 50-50, 40-60, something along those lines of a combo Bitcoin and Ethereum. Third, if you really want to dive deeper, you want to be more diversified, Bitwise and Grayscale both offer diversified funds of the top 10 crypto so that you're getting a broader access. Keep in mind that Bitcoin and Ethereum are about 80 to 90% of those funds because they're dominant in the marketplace, but it gives you that opportunity. And then by taking that little baby step, as you get acclimated, the more you learn, the more you become comfortable and familiar, you can begin to look at other avenues, such as picks and shovels, Bitcoin miners, DeFi, and other aspects within the space. And once you jump down that rabbit hole, you'll begin to get excited about it.
Rick, in your opinion, are we going to see a Bitcoin ETF in the next 12 months?
Well, I'll tell you what I've been saying publicly, Jay, is that we're going to see a Bitcoin ETF within 18 months. And I've been saying that for 6 years. So, I've had Hester Peirce on stage and in webinars with me, and I've asked her that question directly. She's a commissioner at the SEC. We've talked with a lot of staff at the SEC. We don't know when it's going to happen. There are predictions all across the map, whether it's going to be within a few months or whether it's going to take another 1.5 or 2 years. Jay Clayton has made it clear he likes the idea of a Bitcoin futures ETF, and he has said he is not opposed to a Bitcoin ETF. We also have concerns about the custody and pricing of Bitcoin, which is what's slowing down the SEC from saying, okay. There are about 15 applications in front of the SEC now. 4 of them, the SEC says, it will rule on before the end of the year. So we'll have to wait and see. But here's the good news. It no longer matters. You really don't have to wait for a Bitcoin ETF anymore. That was the mantra 5 years ago, because it was the only way for advisors to engage and for ordinary investors. I mean, we're not going to go open a Coinbase account or whatever. It's complicated, it's confusing, it's a little scary. We're not going to bother doing that. We want an ETF. We know ETFs, we like ETFs, they're easy to work with and low cost, but there isn't one. And that's why a lot of advisors said, I'm going to wait. How much longer are you going to wait? Bitcoin is already almost $50,000. You're going to wait till it's 100,000 by the time an ETF comes available? You don't have to wait anymore. You've got GBTC and Osprey's Bitcoin Trust. You've got Bitwise's Diversified Trust, BITW. You can already buy Bitcoin in the open marketplace through securities in your brokerage account, just like everything else. You can buy MicroStrategy, MSTR is the symbol, which is essentially a Bitcoin proxy. You can buy Riot Blockchain, RIOT, and add this to your client portfolios. There's no reason to wait for a Bitcoin ETF because really we don't know when it's going to come out, and who knows what the price of Bitcoin will be by the time it does. How much more of the gain are you going to sit and miss?
All right, Rick, one more question before we talk about the council. There was a point in time, I don't know, probably 10 years ago, where you weren't a believer in Bitcoin, in the blockchain, in cryptocurrencies. And then something had to happen, a process, a journey. Walk us through where you went from not being an advocate and a believer to being a believer.
Well, it didn't take me very long, not as long as most. When I first found out about Bitcoin in 2012, I was at the executive program of Singularity University, which is kind of like Grand Central Station for the expo tech world. It's a deep dive program in AI, robotics, nanotech, biotech, bioinformatics, 3D printing, fintech. And that's where I learned about Bitcoin. And it didn't make any sense to me. I mean, digital money, not issued by a government that's meant to replace fiat currencies. Oh, come on. It just didn't make any sense on its surface. But I was intrigued because there were some pretty significant people, even back then in 2012, in getting engaged. And so I went, and instead of just dismissing it out of hand as a tulip bulb or a beanie baby, as most people do when they first hear about it, I decided to look further into it. My curiosity defeated my skepticism. And I engaged, and I spent a lot of time in 2013 talking with people in the ecosystem, talking to the developers, studying about it, trying to understand what this blockchain thing is. And by early 2014, began investing. And mostly as an experiment, an educational activity, what's it like as a user experience? And the more I got engaged in this, the more I began to realize that there's a there. And I became a very big proponent very quickly, not so much because of Bitcoin, but because of the blockchain, the underlying technology that was invented to allow Bitcoin to exist. And it's where the blockchain, where we get totally excited and enthusiastic about the future. That's really what it's all about.
Very similar to my journey. It was just 8 years later and cost me a lot more money.
So in the future, you'll look back on it and say it was cheap.
That's right. Hopefully. All right. So let's talk about the council. So what was your inspiration for creating the council?
Well, as I was developing my own knowledge, it was all self-study and connections I was making within the crypto community because there was no availability of info anywhere. I mean, the CFP board, even today, the CFP program doesn't have any content on crypto, certainly let alone back in 2012. Nobody does anywhere have any content on this. And so it was all, bootstrapping, just figuring out on my own, working outside of the financial services community because nobody in finance ever heard of it, knew what it was, or was anything other than a skeptic. Warren Buffett called it rat poison squared. Even Jamie Dimon, even this week, had another interview where he says he thinks it's ridiculous. So Wall Street hated it. And so I couldn't turn to them for advice and help and so on. So I figured it out on my own. And I realized really two things in the course of my research. First, blockchain technology and the resulting digital assets that it allows to exist is the most profound invention for global commerce since the internet itself. It's hard to overstate how big a deal this really is. Second, the overwhelming majority of financial advisors don't realize this. And since they don't realize it, they're not engaging, they're not including it in client portfolios, and that's hurting clients and their ability to achieve their financial goals. And it's not out of malice. It's simply because advisors have not had the guidance that they need. Their firms aren't helping them. There isn't training available. Nobody's really providing the resource. And so 3 years ago, I created DAC-FP, the Digital Assets Council of Financial Professionals. We serve as an educational forum, connecting the crypto community with the financial community to bring them together. Because what I've learned is that the crypto community is making some really cool products and services that are of real value to advisors and our clients. But they don't know how to talk to advisors. In fact, most of them have never even heard of RIAs. They don't even know the RIA marketplace exists, let alone the fact we're managing $8 trillion in assets. They don't get it. They don't understand. They talk to each other. They don't talk to people who can use the stuff that they're building. And the financial community doesn't know anything about the crypto community. They don't know the products that exist or the services or how it can be helpful in your practice management, help you grow a business, attract clients, manage their assets, improve returns while lowering risks. The advisory community is as equally ignorant of the cryptos as the cryptos are of the advisors. So I created DAC-FP as the bridge to connect the two. And we are now the dominant organization, pretty much really the only one, that is doing this in a big, meaningful way. And we are now sponsored by a lot of folks throughout the industry, both in the financial side as well as the digital side. We're the official education partner for the blockchain and digital assets for the CFP board, the Financial Planning Association, XY Planning Network, the Investment Advisors Association, and the Money Management Institute. And there are a lot of companies, including Orion and others, that are turning to us to provide education to their members, their advisors, their employees, and such. We've created along the way, in addition to a lot of webinars that we do and a lot of online content, we also have the certificate in blockchain and digital assets. This is a 11-module online self-study course that offers you 13 CE credits. It's only $549. And a lot of these organizations offer you discounts. You can get it even cheaper. And it's a world-class faculty. Scott Stornetta, for example, is the co-inventor of blockchain technology. He's on our faculty. We've got folks from the former head of IBM's blockchain program. We've got leading experts in digital assets as well as law and regulation, all providing the content for our faculty. It's a terrific program. We've only launched it since May, and already over 1,000 advisors are enrolled, including from 7 countries around the world. So this is becoming a global phenomenon, and we're just thrilled to be able to be providing this content to advisors all across the country.
So once someone completes the certification program, are there continuing educational opportunities, or is this a go get the designation and you're done?
When you get the certificate, you get a digital badge. You get to display it on LinkedIn and all your other social media sites and your electronic business card. You get to brag to your clients not only that you have the knowledge, but you've got the certificate. And that helps you set yourself apart from your clients and prospects who are all interested. The stat you offered at the top of our conversation, 82% of clients want their advisor to be knowledgeable about this. And this is your way of being able to show your clients and prospects through your marketing that you have the knowledge and expertise they need to rely on you for this. That's just the start, Jay, to your point. We have ongoing continuing education content, a lot of it exclusive for those who attain their certificate. We have marketing materials and educational materials that allow you to make it easier for you to communicate with your clients and explain all this to them to help you build your practice. So it's an ongoing community that we're building that is really helping a lot of advisors get up to speed quickly in a very easy, convenient way through online self-study.
Rick, I appreciate you coming on. Advisors, please check out the certification program at dacfp.com. That's dacfp.com. And Rick, I really appreciate your advocacy for advisors learning and getting up to speed with crypto and digital assets.
It's my pleasure, Jay. Thanks so much for the time today.